Got my props today. All right, let's get it, guys. So, you know what, guys? Growing up, I lived, a relatively healthy life. My mom cooked home-cooked meals, African meals, Western meals growing up, and she cooked fresh meals every day. When we went to the supermarket, she would fill up the carton, and it wasn't like other kids who I saw going with, their mums to the supermarket, and their mums would just be filling the cart with processed meals, ready meals, all that kind of stuff. That wasn't the case. We got fresh home cooked meals every single day. But I couldn't understand growing up why I would struggle with my weight. My mum would struggle with her weight. Up and down with our weight. Whilst my brother and my dad would eat the same, probably even more, and will stay like that. For the longest time, my mum would just say, look, we're big boned, it's our side of the family, that's how we are. And that's the story I told myself. It's genetics, this is just the way I am. I'm gonna have this problem throughout my whole life. And that story stuck with me up until my late 20s, being big boned, until I figured out that it wasn't that. I stumbled upon the truth: hormonal health, metabolic health, and insulin resistance. So today I'm gonna tell you all about it. So stay tuned. Yes, guys, it's your boy Kenny. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about my relationship with food, with how I stumbled upon the truth late in my 20s, my story growing up, and we're going to debunk a few things in this video today, and hopefully it will be a powerful cornerstone video for you that you can watch over again and learn. I really feel like this is a video that can help so many people. The information in this video transformed my life with my health, So, like I said earlier on, I grew up in a healthy household. The big conundrum in my childhood was understanding or not understanding why I would struggle with my weight. Mind you, I was very athletic. I played football a lot in my childhood. I was always like the fastest guy in my class. I was always active, but I was always struggling with my weight. Right, my brother wasn't. I didn't understand why. I thought it was just genetics. My mum told me we're big boned in this side of the family. This is just how we are. You know what I mean? Despite the fact that we had fresh cooked meals every single day. Now, looking back on that, of course, yes, we had fresh meals every day, but there were things that, nobody explained to me at the time, right? We would have carbohydrates like rice, for example, jollof, pasta, whatever it is. I would fill my plate mostly with the carbs, and the protein won't be so much, maybe the veg won't be so much. Now I know that that was doing something to my hormones, but at the time I didn't understand. I thought this is just the way people eat, right? This is what it is. This is what you do. The carbs are going to fill me up the most, so I'm going to eat that. And looking back as well, look, my parents didn't give me and my brother any restrictions when it came to snacks. Some of these guys, right? Biscuits, crisps. Me and my brother would come back from school and we would just we had this, you can't see it, but we had this wardrobe over there whereby we would just go in and get the crisps, get the chocolate, and we just would just have a field day with it. We were active, so, I struggled with my weight. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could say I was obese as a child, but, I did have those weight issues. My brother didn't, but we didn't have restrictions to this. So what I'm trying to say is that had an impact as well on me. That was the big thing in my childhood, growing up until my teens and 20s, that I didn't get what this was happening. Despite me being active, despite me being athletic, why am I struggling my weight this way? Now, mind you guys, this whole battle with my weight has been going on since my childhood. I remember the first time that I consciously lost weight. It was when I was in my year 6 prom, grade 6 in primary school. I remember I put on a little bit of weight and I had a prom coming up and I wanted to look good for my prom day and for my prom day, So I remember so well. I remember I ate a little bit less of everything and I just moved more. I ran more. I played more football. I was more active. I lost some weight, but I didn't understand what was going on or what I was really doing, but it worked at the time. But of course, with that lack of understanding, you don't sustain anything, and I put it all back. The next time I remember consciously was Florida, right? Florida, I was 13, 14. That was the first time I remember looking at myself and thinking, I'm really not happy with the way that I look. This is bad. Best holiday actually ever, by the way, as a child. And we came back and we're looking at videos. And I was looking at myself, oh my gosh. And my mum, to be fair, we were both mortified. Looking at the way my nyash, For those of you that aren't African, that means my bum was moving like, I don't even, bro. And my breast, I was so disgusted with the way that I looked. I was genuinely down. The first time I remember, I was genuinely down by the way that I looked. And I thought to myself, by that time I'd stopped playing a lot of football. I was less active, but I just didn't understand why why me and my mum had this problem. And I just thought to myself, you know what, this is what I've been told. It's just genetics. I'm going to have this problem with my weight for my whole life, right? And it's already started. I'm just a kid, and this is how it's going to be. And it was tough, you know? So yeah, and the weight issues continued, honestly. Sixth form. Girls, motivation for me, man. My school was a boys' school, but at sixth form it was mixed. So for the first time in how many years, I had girls in my class, and I was like, oh no, I can't be going out like that. I need to lose some weight. So I did what I did back in the day when I was in year 6. I moved a bit more and ate a bit less, right? And again, for that little season, it worked until it came back again. Fast forward now till university, right? Now, this is the first time I came across like metabolism, right? Even though I didn't really know exactly why what was happening. I was doing a bit more research at this time because I really wanted to lose weight, because I wanted to play, sports in uni. So I did the whole approach of many small meals in the day, and I cut out the majority of my carbohydrates. Like, I'd only have carbs like a few times a week. So it was really a very, very low carb diet. And this was the first time like I actually got shredded, guys. Like I got shredded. I remember, I applied this for like 12 weeks and I just transformed. Abs came, chest came, like I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So that's the first time I really, really experienced like such a big change. But I couldn't sustain it, right? I couldn't sustain it. And it usually happens all the time when you do something like that, something drastic, you can't sustain it, and when I couldn't sustain it, and the weight slowly started to come back again. So then 2020, right? I was put on furlough from my job. That's when I went all in to become a coach. And around that time, I became plant-based. And not just plant-based, I was alkaline. And if you don't know about the alkaline diet, that's basically removing like all starches, you know what I mean, from your diet. So everything that I ate, even the carbohydrates, were like starch-free or minimal starch. And I got absolutely shredded again. I'm going to show you a picture here. I got shredded, you know what I mean? And did this for about 2 to 3 years. And I did a lot of reading at this time as well. And it was the first time I came across the idea of starches converting into sugar in your blood, and that we can only take so much sugar. And when we do too much, it can lead to things like pre-diabetes, diabetes, but also a lot of fat storage. And that was the first time it really started to click that, hold on a minute, there's something here that's affecting my hormones. Again, I didn't really have the full understanding, but I was getting there, right? I was getting the information. But so the first time it started to click as to what was going on in my childhood up until this point. But again, like most things that are very, very restrictive, I can sustain it. The weight started to come back again. Ugh. Guys, I had to bring these books, okay? So I've always been quite a curious person, and I've always liked reading. I wanted more balance in my life, and I really wanted to understand how I could be sustainable with a good health journey for the rest of my life, especially as a health coach moving forward, right? So I started to read a lot more, and this doesn't exhaust the amount of books that I read, but I just wanted to bring this here as an example, right? I read The Keto Zone Diet. I read Why We Get Sick by Benjamin Bickman, Self-Heal by Design by Barbara O'Neill, The Mucusless Diet. I read The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin. All fantastic books. The Great Cholesterol Con. They all taught me more and more of the truth that I was looking for my whole life. And this is the part that I really just want to stress to you, that I finally understood that it wasn't about willpower. It wasn't that I was lazy. It wasn't that just genetics and I was just doomed to be big, or because I'm big bone for the rest of my life. It wasn't that, right? I started to understand the truth about metabolism and hormones, and that it wasn't necessarily how much I was eating, that I had to eat less and move more, but it was the types of food that I was eating, and that each type of food that we eat has a hormonal response on our body. And when I started understanding that, the game changed. Everything started to change from then, because I started to understand my own body, how food responds for me, and what I can do about that to regulate my hormones so that my metabolism balances. And when I got to that truth, it took me a few years of learning. Everything changed, guys. Everything changed, you know, and I want to get into that a little bit more right now. You know, for the longest time, I thought it was all about calories in, calories out, right? That's what is widely accepted in the health industry up until this day, right? As what controls your metabolism and the key to weight loss. And on the surface, it sounds logical until you do a little bit more digging and you realize that it really isn't. And it really reduces food to just simply a number, and it ignores the real governor of your weight and your metabolism, which is your hormones. Calories in, calories out is so reductionist. And you know what, guys? I tried calorie counting, right? I only tried it for a little bit because I absolutely hated it. I remember seeing it everywhere and the start of my journey, and thinking to myself, right, I've got to count my calories. I've got to weigh this. I've got to weigh that. I absolutely hated it. I thought to myself, there is no way my ancestors counted every single calorie in every single food they ate for their whole lives. There's no way that this is what we have to do to maintain surely it has to be simpler than this. I didn't know what it would be, but I knew that it was not this. I knew it was, I found it so long, and I just quit because I knew deep down there was something more. I just didn't know what it was, right? I hated it. I thought to myself, surely God didn't place me on this earth to control my weight by having to count every minuscule of calorie I put on my plate. Surely he wants me to eat more intuitively. I need to find out the truth, which also led me to this journey of reading and finding out a little bit more about what really is going on with our bodies, right? How did God design this thing? It's really important to understand that we as human beings, right, we are highly evolved to store body fat as human beings. In the past, we would feast and famine, right? We would go through long periods of time without food. So our bodies, our physiology, our biology had to adapt to that. And it had to do that in a way that when we feast, it would store food for a rainy day, right? We live in a time right now where there's a lot of abundance with food, right? A lot of abundance. Everywhere you go, there's food. But our biology, our physiology hasn't caught up to that. So we still, in our bodies, react to a way where the body wants to store fat at any given opportunity, especially if it feels like it's going into a famine. And that's going to lead me on to the calorie in, calorie out thing. Calories in, calories out. Why it's flawed is because it doesn't take into consideration the quality of the food that you're eating. So technically, you could eat what you want, but still be in a calorie deficit and lose weight. Whenever you're in a calorie deficit, your body will lower its metabolic set point. So your metabolic set point is the range in which your body will maintain its weight. Now, what will happen is when you go into a period of restricted calories, without actually fixing the quality of your food and hence your hormones, your body will think it's starving. Your body will go into that whole famine thinking that you're not going to have food for a long time. What it will do is reduce your metabolism and increase your hunger, because it's thinking, well, I need more food and we're going into starvation mode. So it will reduce your metabolism and reduce that metabolic set rate. So whereas before you needed 1,500 calories to be in a deficit, now you'll need 1,400 to be in a deficit, because your set point, the range in which it maintains its weight, has gone down. That's a recipe for disaster, because the more and more that happens, that deficit that you were in now becomes a surplus. Okay, so now you've got to eat less, and that cycle continues to repeat itself. All the while, your hunger goes up. Absolute recipe for disaster, because you can have as much willpower as you want. You will crack. There's only so much at so point in time that you can rely on willpower for so long, especially if you are hungry. If you are on a diet, any kind of restriction diet that doesn't fix the root of your hunger, there's a problem, especially if you have to eat less and less and less and less. And this is the reason why when anybody does calorie restriction, 90% of the time, when they go back to eating normally, they'll always put on weight more than they did last time. It always comes on more. And the reason it comes on more is because they didn't fix the root of their metabolism and the hormones that govern their hunger properly. So they were in this mode of restriction, this mode of famine, and the moment they come out of that, boom. And another thing is, when you go into that mode of famine, not only, like I said, metabolism goes down, hunger goes up. So anything that you give it, any food that you give it, your body is going to get better at holding on to what it has and storing that for a rainy day because it thinks you're in famine. Our body is like really good at adjusting to what we give it. So every single time you go on that calorie deficit, you try it again, you feel like, all right, I've got the willpower, I'm going to go again, right? Your body every single time gets more adapted to it and will hold on better to whatever you give it, which is also the reason why you get people who will say, I'm not even eating much and the weight is not shifting. This is the reason why, okay? Because your metabolism has dropped, so your ability to burn fat is a lot harder and your hunger goes up. So you're trying to eat less and less whilst not fixing the root, and the weight's not shifting. And this was a game changer for me, guys. When I understood that it wasn't about how much I was eating, but it was about the quality of the food that I was eating, that's when the game changed. Guys, the biggest fix is shifting your diet from having processed foods and ultra processed foods to eating real foods, foods that God created, foods that grow from the ground or animals that eat the ground. It's as simple as that, okay? I've got a few examples right here. What is an ultra processed food? An ultra processed food is a food that is processed, made in a lab, probably tastes really good. And when you read the back of the ingredients is probably more than 5 things. All right, so we've got this right here, Weetabix, OEs, whatever it is, we found this, okay? So what it's got in there, whole grain wheat, sugar, caramelized biscuit pieces, wheat flour, inverted sugar syrup, raisin agent, you get it, okay? All this stuff, enhancers, whenever you see enhancers, preservatives, emulsifiers, sugars, and the list is long, it's processed, okay? I've got some Doritos here, same thing, all right? We've got corn maze, rapeseed oil, chili heat with flavor, sugar flavorings, flavor enhancers. These are the buzzwords, okay, guys? A whole lot of other stuff, something acid and all this kind of stuff. Ultra processed food, okay, guys? As opposed to a plantain is a single ingredient food. A plantain is a plantain. An orange is an orange. Cashew nuts are cashew nuts. Agege bread, okay? Real bread should just be, you know, flour, salt, water. Do you know what I mean? I might be missing something, but that should be it. Look what we've got here. Wheat flour, flour treatments, agents, E numbers, sugar, margarine, emulsifiers, colors, all just for bread. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? So this is the difference, right? And when our diet is simply made or majority made of these foods, and you don't have 80 to 90% of your diet made up of natural whole foods, okay? It doesn't matter how much calories you count or what kind of deficit you are. Because like I explained, you're not going to be solving your hormonal issues. You're not going to get to the real issue of your metabolism. So you're going to be in starvation mode, restricting yourself whilst not fixing your hunger. Absolute recipe for disaster. Just really quickly, what else goes into the ultra processed food? We're talking white bread, white pasta, yeah? White rice is on the border. It does get bleached and there's a lot of preservatives and stuff like that. So I'll put that in the processed region, not really ultra processed. Pasta, cakes, ready meals, all that kind of stuff, guys, right? If you go on the back and the ingredients is more than 5 things, it's ultra processed, all right? It's as simple as that. But